Hey there, independent Scientologists. Discover a new perspective to your bridge by visiting ao-gp.org. Get in session with remote auditing using the theta meter. Are you curious about where you stand? Head on over to ao-gp.org now and take our free personality test. Join the growing group of independent Scientologists today.
Hi, and welcome to another AOGP Scientology Outside of the Church podcast. This is season 9, episode 26. This one is going to be titled The Biggest Change in History. Are you ready for it? Going to be talking about AI again. It's been a while, and a lot has changed, and I've never done a podcast. I don't think I've done a podcast with you, have I?
On
With
AI.
AI? No, and I know I haven't done one with you, Arthur. So
I think it was with Quentin,
it
maybe.
might have been, and I think I did one with Jason as well. So some interesting tidbits. And I promised I wouldn't hog the mic on this one. Some interesting tidbits. Late last week, it was Friday, I think, on X. There were some, I guess can you call them tweets if it's on X because it's not Twitter anymore? I'm not sure, but
Well, we don't want to call them X's.
X's, right. So there were 13 posts by one of the lead researchers from Apple on AI that's working for them. And the long and the short of it was they did some tests and they basically what came about was that they realized that AI is absolutely wonderful at predicting what's going to be said next. But it's not great at reasoning just yet. And that's what Apple is trying to figure out. And I'm sure they'll figure it out because there's a lot of horsepower, money, what have you behind this. And so the gist of it was, and this isn't the point of the podcast, but it's important to note because this will be on record from here on out in our podcast library, that when you do a word problem with an LLM, a GPT like Chat GPT or Claude or Meta, and you give it a word problem, and then you add inapplicable information to it in the word problem, it drastically, depending on the platform, but even Chat GPT goes down quite a bit statistically. It drastically goes down in its ability to solve the word problem, and that is reason. And so we've got a ways.
Do you have an example?
Well, like Bob has 5 oranges, and Jill has 6 oranges. Some are smaller, some are larger. How many oranges do they have total? It's that simple. Seriously.
Well, in ChatGPT's defense, like I suck at math too. It's more of a math problem.
Well, that's understandable, but it totally throws a spanner into the works on that because it can't reason on what does that have to do with the price of eggs.
Right.
So this is a very interesting point. Now this brings us to having a GPT, a chat, or a video / chat with a Dianetic auditor, for example, and doing Dianetics online, which we've talked about before, where you could get a Dianetic session with an AI, which is something that we're working on. That has to be solved first. That has to be solved first because you never know what the PC is going to say. So keeping in line with that, that's something that's a speed bump that's in the middle of the road, but it isn't something that can't be overcome maybe in the next couple of months at the most, at the rate things are going. So I wanted to do another podcast on this because what the podcast is about is if you don't apply the proper ethics condition, you end up 2 conditions lower. We've done a podcast on that. So to explain the conditions real quick, I'm going to turn it over to my wife, who can explain that very, very, very quickly what the ethics conditions are.
They're basically conditions of life. So, at any moment in time, like somebody would be in a condition or something would be in a condition, or you would assign a condition to something. So, for example, if you are starting a new job, you'd be in a condition of non-existence. Or, sorry,
Yeah,
yeah,
non-existence.
no, yeah, I'm right. I don't know why.
That didn't sound right, but you're
Yeah,
right.
it didn't, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
non-existence.
no, it's non-existence. And then you'd basically work on the formula and be able to, go up to the next condition and the next and the next. It's important to note that these conditions they're not just, made by our own habit. They are, he might have put them together and formulated these things, but they're occurring naturally. They're natural laws to everything in the universe. It's really remarkable tech,
Yeah,
really
and they
remarkable.
exist whether you know about them or not.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just a
exactly.
fact. So
If
that's
somebody's in doubt, for example, they're constantly evaluating, what would happen if I mean, we do it all the time, as like prior to Scientology, we're like, let's weigh the pros and cons out. There's constantly that kind of thing going on, depending on obviously where you're at.
right, what condition you're in. Now,
Mm.
the reason of this podcast is there is a extremely probably the biggest change coming that we've ever well definitely that we've ever seen in our lifetime. It makes the change of the internet look small. I mean, like a blip or smartphone technology, what have you. This is how big this change is. This change is bigger than the Gutenberg press. That's how big this change coming is.
Why?
Well, and that's a great question. I'm gonna explain it as quickly as I can. There's a paper that came out from the CEO of Claude, uh, LLM GPT, which is one of the primary competitors, and in some ways is better than Chat GPT. And it's a long paper, and he explains why and how these things are going to change. You can find it online. It's everywhere now. And there's videos on YouTube and podcasts about it and all this stuff. But we're looking at the advent of not only AI at the same time, but and I'm this isn't about Elon Musk, but I mean he just happens to be at the forefront of it. Yeah, I'm getting to it. The point is the point is that these changes, and well, Arthur asked me about LLMs and stuff the other day because he wanted to start using them. There's a backstory here. Hang with me, hang with me. So the point is, it's going to change everybody's lives tremendously in ways
How?
well, that's
I
what I'm
keep asking how.
okay. All right, let's do this. How has it changed your life as a graphic designer?
Well, I know how it's changed mine, but you're saying it's like this big, huge thing. So I want to know how. Because, a lot of people that don't have our knowledge and our experience with AI is like scratching their heads like, oh, it's just something that, it's kind of like Google. So,
Well,
you know,
only 40% of the population even knows what AI is.
exactly.
As at this on this date in the middle of October 2024. Arthur, do you know about AI?
I don't know a huge amount, which is why I was asking you so I can start exploring it.
Okay. What do
I
you
know
know?
very little about it. Um, well, the reason for, all right, I'll give you my backstory.
Okay.
So I was exploring relationship dynamics, and so I came across a video where the gentleman presenting, he brought AI into it and how AI will potentially affect relationship dynamics in the future, but in a dangerous sense, where AI can be your friend. It can be the person that comforts you. It can be the voice that will ask you how you are and have empathy towards you. And so there's a program around that where you could come home. It's been a hard day's work and have an actual conversation with AI. But
Mm-hmm.
of course, it's guised by a human voice. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so his argument around it was the future of relationships being destroyed through AI in that sense. But at the same time, while I'm listening to it, I thought to myself, this is actually pretty cool. Like not his argument, but the potential of AI, and that was one potential of it,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was in a destructive sense. But then I thought to myself, you know what? Like, how cool is that, right? Where you could have a conversation with something that has a vast knowledge, and like, of course, there'll be people that will use it in an emotional way,
Mm-hmm.
um, to avoid conflict or whatever their reasons are. But then in my mind, I'm like, man, this is like a powerhouse right at my fingertips if I use it in that way.
Yeah. And
If I
that's
use it in that way.
right. And this is what they call agents. Agents are a particular large language model where it is an iteration of it that is working on one particular task. You could have thousands or tens, hundreds, millions of agents
Sounds a lot like the Matrix.
Mr.
Yeah.
Smith. You could
Yeah.
you could have these things working on particular tasks. Okay.
Yep.
So it's going to fundamentally, I mean, think back to the internet. Well, we were just watching Gilmore Girls last night,
Yeah.
and you said, "Well, where's there's no cell phones in this show?" And I said, "Well, this season came out in 2000."
Right.
I mean, we had
Mm.
cell phones in 2000, but they weren't ubiquitous like they are now. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what people use as their ID, their passports, their debit cards, all that stuff. So there's these, and we just go, well, just hop on your phone, and
Yep.
that solves the problem for you. This is going to be like that, but exponentially larger, where you can have a discussion with a pair of glasses. Meta released this. Well, it's not out yet, but they publicized it and had a big event where you have the glasses on, and it is a mixed reality with it's computer laid over what you're seeing. Okay. And it's very similar to what Apple has. And Apple's is this big, huge, bulbous thing on your face, like we use for 3D gaming and everything like that. And
Yep.
these are a pair of Ray-Bans,
Mm.
a pair of Ray-Bans that you can talk to, ask questions. It gives you pictures, it gives you images, and they look just like, and it has a microphone, it has speakers in it so that you can hear it. Everything in a pair of Ray-Bans. They've already got certain iterations in it out, but I'm not, it's like, all right, well, what big deal is that? So, well, the big deal is not only are you going to have access to this information like you do with your phone, but it's going to fundamentally make your life easier if you're on the side of the condition of being aware of what is about to happen. Now, take for
And
example,
that's a tough one.
yeah.
That's super tough because, I mean, even if we go into the hearts of men, right, we're the ones that create good and we're the ones that create evil as well.
Mm-hmm.
And like, that's a really fine line. And you're saying, from what you've seen, glasses, right? So that's what you're allowed to see at this stage.
Mm-hmm.
What's coming that's in the making that is not open to the public?
Well, I mean, like LRH says about the shades of night and technology and how they can shut everything down. I mean, they can already do that if they want to. But the point is that not everybody. I think probably the thing that's the most important linchpin in the whole thing is if you have electricity, it's going to come down to you'll be able to have your own large language model at your fingertips. Not to mention
Mm,
well, within the next 2 to 3 years, and this is what Elon says, but I don't doubt it. He's got his robots coming out where you're going to be able to buy a
mm.
robot for less than you can a Ford Fiesta.
Yeah, I
So
saw that. Yeah.
that's about 16 grand will get you a full sized 5 foot, I think it's 6 robot that has a large language model in it that can wash your dishes, work on your computer, interface with the internet, do word processing for you, fold your clothes, audit your son and daughter, teach your son and daughter. A whole new meaning to homeschooling, which is a big deal. You're a father. I'm a father. My kids are grown,
Yep.
but how valuable would that be? I mean, and we're looking at a total sweep of the things that you have to deal with and the amount of time that you're going to have and what you do with it and how you can survive better if you leverage that technology. So that's you either apply the right condition or you don't. I'll give you an example. If you could have learned to program a computer 20 years ago, or you got on bought Bitcoin when it was pennies on the dollar, what would you have done?
Made an incredible amount of money.
Yeah. And what could you do with that potential?
Well, here's my thing.
Buy a robot.
So okay, I'm sort of in two minds about this because so far as a society, what I've seen is that the easier we make things is actually the harder we make things. So, we've made all these quick and easy meals, for example, just the food industry alone. And what is it doing? Well, it's causing diabetes, it's causing cancer, it's supporting big pharma and
Right.
that industry and
Right.
it's just it's a mess.
Right. Now, as an example to that, you have one of Tesla's robots and
I'm
they
still busy.
Oh, you're still talking?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So I was just saying, like, so you have all these industries that are profiting off of us, the, whatever. Um, sorry, I feel bad now.
Don't. Go ahead. No, it's fine. It's fine. I put a pin in it and I'm ready to go when you've finished your thought.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
Well, unfortunately, it just seems to me that, we are people who want things easier, but then, unfortunately, it makes it harder. And then we've got to come up with solutions for that. It's like that whole problem, solution thing. We've got to like change things up all the time. And then you get to something where it's like, okay, so the individual can maybe, progress, but what does that mean for an entire society?
Well, that's very true. So
Yeah.
that's that Dave Grohl thing where he says we've got all this amazing technology to make music, but yet the music scene isn't any better, it's worse.
Yeah.
Because you've just made it a push
Yeah.
button thing where people they just take the easiest way out. But that's my point for this podcast is which side do you want to be on if you had a chance to get Bitcoin at pennies on the dollar, or you could just learn how to program in any of the most popular programming languages now. And the thing is with AI, nobody's going to be programming in 5 years. Nobody.
Right.
Probably a lot less because we have large language models that can code for us. They had a large language model that watched the videos of people playing Doom, which was the first person shooter that came out in 1993. It watched the videos of Doom and recreated the code for the game, the whole game,
Wow.
on its own based off of what it saw in the videos of it alone.
Yeah.
Okay, so you do the extrapolation there, and this is very, very real tech. Video, Adobe just released this week for the waiting list to get in. And there are lots of others out there too, but they're the first ones to really make it public where you can make a video by entering in a text prompt, and it is absolutely photorealistic 720p video of what you told it to make a video of. And you can add things into it and then recreate it again and add things into it. Okay, so and we've already seen these deep fakes. I mean, how many times on TikTok are we like, oh, that's AI?
Right.
This can't be real.
Yep.
That's what you're talking about as far as bad actors.
Yeah.
People using it. I mean, we have people who are using voices in phone calls and everything like that that's created by AI
Yeah.
to screw people out of money, get money out of their bank accounts. I mean, that was happening before. That's been happening for, I mean, ever since there were phones, type of thing. So yeah, it can go one way or the other. But the point is if you have a robot that you get on credit, and this robot can come in and it can help you do all of the things that you need to do. You just tell it what you want it to do, and it learns as it goes. You couldn't do that with a 12-year-old kid or a 15-year-old kid or a
Mm.
19-year-old kid, but the robot can, and you can have it do whatever you want. I mean, the sky's the limit. How does that fundamentally change your existence? Well, it can get you up the bridge a lot faster. And that's not the point of this podcast, but I'm saying, do you want to be left behind and apply the wrong condition? And I'm trying to basically say, hey, buy Bitcoin for pennies on the dollar with this podcast, because that's where we're at right now. And I wanted to get to this. I hope I answered your question, Arthur. If I didn't, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And I'm like, I could see such huge potential with it, but then I could see a big danger with it as well. Like, I'm really even Stevens about it.
Mm-hmm. So is Lisa.
I could see the awesome potential of it, but then I can also see, like Lisa was saying, pretty much everything we touch, somebody will bastardize it somewhere if
Yeah.
it's not coming out bastardized already. But I think, like in previous podcasts we've spoken about, like that's part of the game too.
Mm-hmm.
And whether we like it or not, it's gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
Whether we like it or not, it's definitely coming. It's inevitable, and it's part of our evolution as a race. And it kind of makes sense that it does move in that direction to some degree. Um, but then the reality of it, things are going to change, and they're going to change fast. I mean, just the way things have changed just with phones.
Yeah.
Like the time warp speed is incredible.
Yeah.
And so when this happens, and for $16,000, that's affordable.
Yeah.
Like that's really affordable.
It is. You could say, Bob the robot, go out and mow the lawn with the lawnmower and check the oil
Yeah,
on it before
yeah.
you get started. And you don't even have to tell it to do that. Once it's done it, it knows. I mean, that's adaptive learning type of a thing. So my point
But then what happens after AI? Like what happens after robots?
well, well, that's what they talk about AGI, and the singularity is that the increase statistically of our ability to learn, which have been a very sported like a 45-degree angle trend, it goes straight
Yep.
vertical, because now we can solve problems that we've been trying to solve for 200 years. And Elon's got the biggest server farm ever for his large language model, Grok, that's coming online. They've got it done. They got it together in 19 days. 19 days. 100,000 NVIDIA servers made specifically for large language model processing. 19 days. It's huge. So, and ChatGPT, OpenAI, they're upset with Microsoft because Microsoft isn't feeding the monster fast enough. They've partnered with Microsoft, and Microsoft can't build a server farm fast enough to supplement what they're trying to do as far as size. They're throwing hundreds of billions of dollars at this, and the only thing stopping it is electricity at this point. And the resources to have the servers in a place and get the electricity. And just recently, in the last couple of days, there's a new algorithm that has come out that can be supplemented into all of these different server farms that reduces the need for the electricity by 90%. And this was solved by AI. Do you see where this is headed?
Pretty incredible.
Yeah,
Like it actually really is quite incredible.
yeah. I mean, we're having advances literally by the minute, and it's going to come down to the second when Grok comes online and they figure out the reasoning speed bump. For example, Lisa, how has it helped you in your business compared to where you were at 2 years ago?
Well, I would say that it has, well, for example, Midjourney gives me ideas, jumping off points, which, I couldn't have if it wasn't there. Then there's also, I use an app called Ideogram for like, cover photos and stuff, which really, takes a lot of the time out. And then there's also, well, there's like a whole bunch of things. But, that said, even though I do use it and it does, make my life a little easier and stuff, I'm just afraid of a time when it makes it too easy. Because, okay, so our LRH says production is the basis of morale, right? So when you're producing, you're happy. Now, if you have AI taking all of that production away from you, you're left with what?
Well, that comes to what you guys were talking about earlier with what people do with it.
Yeah,
So
because already,
go ahead.
In my mind, if I had something like that in front of me, which I probably soon will, I actually feel it would potentially increase my ability, because to some degree, it cuts out a lot of work as well. And I think it'll pretty much come down to as far as our imaginations can go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like literally as far as our imaginations can go. And maybe the danger point there is when you run out of ideas, or when you reach boredom. That's potentially when you might start getting a bit cheeky with it.
Yeah, what I will say is that so far in everything that we have done, we have in some way, shape, or form, we have gotten through it, and we've challenged ourselves. So, I mean, this might have the apparency that it is just something that's going to completely make our lives easier, etc. But it's going to present us with more problems, and we're going to have to get over, find solutions for those problems as well. So, like Arthur was saying, with that boredom, basically, you're gonna have to invent, new creative things. So my production has basically increased by a large percentage well, not my personal production, but the stuff that I'm able to put out because of AI,
How much?
AI's assistance.
How much?
I'm going to say it's probably increased about 40%, which means that in order to keep sane and happy and everything, because also, according to the conditions, nothing stays the same, right?
Right.
It
The
either
stat goes up or goes down.
It goes up or goes down. So if things are going, 40% extra, I'm going to have to compensate and, push myself to think of something else,
Now what am I going to do?
think of something else. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to constantly do that. And it's just.
Or your ethics go out because you get bored.
Exactly.
That's what happens.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, what do I do with
And
with
that's
that
why I
extra?
wanted to do this podcast.
Yeah. So what do I do with that extra 40% of the time? Well, I could just sit and watch Gilmore Girls all day, but honestly, I don't know if anybody has ever had this, but I get it. I don't know if it's guilt or what it is, but if I take a day off, it feels empty. Like I need to make products. Like it's just,
Yeah.
I can't just sit and waste away at a TV.
Yeah. Well, like
I
LRH.
do it, but it's awful.
Yeah. LRH says production is the basis of morale. And that's why I wanted to do this podcast, is because it isn't something that's coming. It's something that's happening right now.
Yeah.
As of this moment. We're talking about this and we're seeing this. It isn't something that is down the road and is going to change things. No. You need to apply the condition right now and take advantage of it. And that, whatever that means to you, is whatever that means to you. Ethics is a personal thing, and you're going to have to figure that out for yourself as one of our listeners. But the fact of the matter is it's already happening. The train has left the station. You are on the train. Where you get off and where you go is the condition that you're applying. Now, LRH said in 1982, this is 42 years ago. He said today's current Stone Age computers will be updated with quote unquote new computer technology. Sounds odd, but that's it. He saw this coming. Their use of one will become real for blood, doing work and getting work done, which this planet has never seen, though seen on other planets. And that comes from the computer series written in 1982. He saw this coming. And this was 42 years ago. He said this, and here we are. Here we are, where your chemistry problems, your physics problems. Now, of course, it's only as good as the information that's put in it. And they're trying really, really hard to get all of the accurate data, not just the opinions that are on Twitter, now X. It's because opinions are just opinions. You know, everybody's got one. But the point is, what you do with this and what you do with your, because, and this is what Elon said a couple of weeks ago, what you do with this is that you're going to have much more time. So if you had, how many hours a week do you have spare time?
Oh, probably a lot, actually.
How much? Yeah.
20.
Okay. Arthur?
At the moment,
If you had robots going out and doing your cleanup work for you, you had 6 robots.
Oh, that would be the best. That would be the best.
Okay. How much
I
time
wouldn't
would you
feel
have?
bad yelling at them if they made a mistake.
You know what? I'm going to push my number up to 40.
At least 40.
Yeah,
at least 40, maybe even 50.
Right. So, or I should say, so, you sure?
And that's just work. That's not including, like I'm already creating like a robot that I'll come home to a clean house.
Well, they have
that
them.
alone burdens me
Right.
and prevents me. Like that would be the best. I'm happy to mow my lawn. I'm happy to go to work and still do those things, but just to have my house clean would be great.
Right.
That alone
now
would be massive.
Now, here's the thing. In South Africa, right? I know this is going off topic a little bit, but when it comes to jobs and employment and that sort of thing, like it'll have huge implications, because in South Africa, a large amount of people are employed
as domestic
workers.
Yes.
So
I saw a guy yesterday up on the corner digging a hole with a pickaxe all day long, digging a 5-foot deep hole with a pickaxe with rocks and brick in the ground and everything. One guy.
But I don't think we're there yet anyway, like, I mean, we're I wouldn't say a third world country by any means, but we're not like America.
Not like the US or Australia, no. But I mean, that's that, and
but
that's the thing. Go ahead.
But I think as well, like there's a lot of things that have occurred in the last, say 200 years, that we haven't experienced ourselves yet, like say motor vehicles, going into a combustion engine. No doubt there would have been fears around something like that occurring. Electricity, like having lights and having power, being able to see at night, that's not via a gas flame or lard.
Candles.
Like that's actually stopped all that kind of thing. And no doubt there would have been fears and concerns there as well. Even music, the way it's changed, the technology around amplifiers and guitars and, moving into MIDI, the digital stuff.
Yeah.
Like we've always worked our way through each phase somehow.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that will make it hard for us is because we're of a certain age and we're so used to being a certain way. Whereas the younger generation that will be growing up with this, it would be so normal to them. For them, it'd be like, what are you talking about? What's the problem? Whereas for us, it means complete life change. And so I think I'm
Yeah.
understanding now what your point of this
Yeah.
podcast
Yeah.
is to prepare yourself for that
That's
change.
right.
So you're not being left behind. You're not, I want out of this world. You're not any of those kinds of
Yeah.
negative aspects that come with such a massive change.
Yeah. Go ahead. You look like you want to say something.
I was just
Oh,
wafting the
oh,
incense
the
near
incense.
me.
The point again is if you apply a wrong condition, you're going to go 2 conditions lower.
So what condition do you think we should be applying?
Therein lies the rub.
Nani?
Well, I mean, at you of all people, ethics is a personal thing. Overts make one blind, that type of a thing, and I think it's important to note this, and why I wanted to do a podcast on this, and I wish millions of people could hear this podcast. They have access to it; they just don't know it exists. It is going to be the biggest overt on your dynamics to miss out on what is happening right now. You have to, and I implore you to educate yourself on it and start learning these tools. This I deal with people all the time that are computer illiterate. They don't know how to use a computer properly. And I'm not talking about any one particular person, anybody that I work with. I'm just saying you're at the thin end of the wedge. You're under a lot of pressure. You're trying to get things going, but you're left behind. Guess what? You know how you can get caught up on this? You can sit down and you can talk to a GPT, which is a large language model, and you can sit there and tell it to explain to you in my operating system, Windows or Mac OS, teach me everything there is to know step by step. Now, right now, it's going to be in text. 6 months from now, 4 months from now, it's going to be in video. I'm not joking. It will be able to create a video, not on YouTube, not from some guy that you can't understand his accent. You can give it whatever you want. I mean, they're literally doing this now. It's not just images. It's audio, sound effects, voices with the video as it produces the video in seconds. So you could say, teach me everything there is to know about installing a theta meter on my computer in a video with an Australian accent. and it'll do it.
Yeah.
So boom, there it is. Can you imagine? Forget YouTube. It's on your glasses, on your Ray-Bans. I'm just using that as an example. I'm not a big Meta fan, but I'm just saying it's on your Ray-Bans. Create a video for me that shows me how to change the oil on a Toyota Outlander, a 2027 model, and give me detailed instructions step by step. 20 seconds later, there's the video step by step in a gradient using study tech if you tell it to, because your large language model will use Scientology technology. We will ensure that for you. We're already doing that on your courses. That's an example.
Really interesting stuff.
The world is your oyster.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
But
Yeah.
I think imagine for a second a world run by AI. So I feel like the premise of AI is that it can get things done logically and, for lack of a better word, perfectly, right? Because, when you're trying to solve a math problem or whatever, you want it done perfect because it's either right or it's not. Okay.
Yeah, it's
no
on,
gray
it's off,
area.
it's yes or it's
Yeah.
no, it's right or it's wrong.
All right. Same thing with science and, all those, logics, reason, that kind of
No
thing.
room for
everything.
false data or bullshit.
Exactly. So, but now here's the thing. Imagine that kind of world. Everything is perfect. Everything is, the AI just knows every answer. I don't know if you've ever had a conversation with ChatGPT, but there's just something missing, and it's not intelligence. It's
That's the reason part of it.
no, no.
Yeah.
Honestly, for me, it's not
It's the
that. For me,
humanness part.
it's the humanness part. Uh, even part of me thinks it's the lack of there being, a little bit of reactivity or a little bit of just that human. I'm sorry, but it is.
Well,
When
what if you could tell it? What if you could tell it to be a little deprecating
listen,
when I make a mistake and it goes
I have tried.
flunk? Well,
No, but
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
the thing. I have tried, and it just doesn't. It falls short. Like if I tell it to give me, like, because obviously I make designs, right? If I ask it for help with little like quotes and stuff for my designs, and I want it to be snarky, it gives me them, but they're almost
it's like
like
talking.
dad
It's
jokes.
like
Like
talking
they're
to.
just
Yeah,
Yeah.
empty,
I get what you're saying. It's like talking to a Vulcan, but that
Yeah,
doesn't have any
exactly.
emotion.
And then you get, yeah, and that's just
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
one experience. Then you have the other experience, which is in things like Midjourney and stuff. It creates these perfect, beautiful images,
Mhm.
but that's the thing. There's
There's a human element missing.
exactly. Now
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
where I come in because you'd think to yourself, oh, like my business would not be booming because of the advent of AI images,
Well,
but it
yeah.
is still because I actually had to learn that people want ugly. And this is the thing. It's
Perfect. There's no
Yeah.
room for
Yeah.
perfection.
exactly. They want a little bit of, aberration in it or something like that, like
Mhm.
they want a subjective thing. So if everybody in the whole world was the same, which is pretty much like they want to do with AI,
Mhm.
right? If you go to Bing, you go to ChatGPT, you go to Copilot, you go to any of these
Yep. LLMs,
LLMs, yeah.
large language models.
Yes. If you go to any of them and you put in, you ask it a question, it is going to give you this very formal, austere, kind of empty answer. It doesn't matter what you ask it, right? I mean, you can ask it to answer it as if you were talking to, it was talking to a 5-year-old child and stuff like that, but it's still not going to really get that impact, that
Mhm.
thing that's missing from humans.
Well,
And
go ahead.
so I just find it really, really amazing, like when it comes to this kind of thing, because yeah, I mean, like I was saying, within my own business, like people want that subjective, thing. They don't want something that's, can just be out, like put out within seconds, because it's amazing. The more energy I've used drawing an image,
Mhm.
whether it was quote unquote good or bad, was equal to the amount of people who actually liked that. It's kind of strange,
Mhm.
you know.
Well, and that's the theta universe.
Yeah,
That's not the physical universe.
yeah,
And
And,
outflow
and
is
I think as well, sorry, and I think as well, everything you just expressed, Lisa, is kind of just what I was saying before about what we're used to. Whereas
mm,
imagine coming into a world and knowing a robot is a robot.
right,
Whereas for us, because we're so used to human interaction and this is so new, accustoming yourself to it will have its awkwardness,
yeah,
because you're no longer talking to a human being. Now you're allowed to talk to a robot that has a voice, but something's missing.
yeah,
Whereas if you were born into that, it would just be so normalized, you wouldn't have an issue
yeah.
with it at all.
yeah,
That's scary because people don't know what they're missing.
Isn't it?
there's a whole generation now that
Yep.
doesn't know a world without
I
smartphones.
mean, I'll give you one example, right, of this whole synthetic versus real thing. Okay, so when I don't know if anybody else is like this, but my personal experience is that when I have things like sugar, gluten, dairy, regular things that most people have, right? Just for example, you can get all three of those in breakfast cereal alone.
Hmm.
What I find is that my senses are numbed, especially my sense of smell, and other a sense of like just like some kind of, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but I can feel like theta, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so when I'm out in nature, it will feel, if I'm eating those things, it will feel like I'm still in a concrete jungle. Whereas if I have not eaten that stuff and not suppressed my whatever perceptions or whatever, then I can actually feel nature.
Yeah.
So the reason why I'm mentioning this is because when you take a look at what's happening with people and you know going and let's take VR for example. You put
Virtual reality.
yeah, you put that, you know, the headset on and you're out in nature and stuff like that, and you know, thinking that you're out in nature.
Right. It tricks you.
There is no comparison with that to actual nature, because yes, you might be seeing the stuff and you might be hearing the birds or whatever.
Yeah, it's not a replacement.
It isn't.
Yeah.
But the thing is, people, they're never going to know what they're missing because
Right.
they haven't, you know, like the new generations and stuff, they're not going to know.
Yeah.
And it's
Well,
just going to all feel empty.
What if it
man.
does the opposite? Like what if it does the opposite? What if it has the potential to preserve nature so we can actually enjoy it a lot better?
Well, and that's
like, you know,
that's
it's
a
like,
good point.
Well, the thing is, I
yeah,
mean, maybe, but my thing is that we've built up an entire world right now that's so dependent on energy, right? And we've cut down forests and we've, you know, done all this stuff to try and get more energy, more energy, more energy. And now with AI, we're going to need even more energy. And nobody's looking at, you know, like sustainable resources like, you know, sunlight, that kind of thing.
Well, and I've got a good analog for you. At the Elon Musk had a bunch of releases. The robot was one. Another one was his taxis that are they're brakeless, acceleratorless taxis that are basically a Tesla taxi and a 20-person van. And they said, here are the possibilities that this type of thing can create. Is they showed images of Los Angeles International Airport, the main airport. Parking lots are turned into areas with trees, plants, flowers, birds, bees, all of that.
Yep.
That's the positive side that could happen in that sort of a situation. Granted, there's an airport infrastructure all around, and some bees are going to get sucked into jet engines and stuff like that as long as we're still using airplanes. I'm going to predict that within the next 20 years, probably
change.
Yeah, probably 10 years. If Elon has his way, you'll be able to get anywhere on the planet. Now, granted, I mean, rocket technology ain't anti-grav, but you'll be able to get anywhere on the planet in an hour.
Yeah. We've got to really look at the why, because why's open the door to handling, right?
That's right.
So we might be assigning the why, or a lot of people might be seeing the why as, oh, it makes people's lives better. But that's bullshit. The real why is it makes big people money.
Well, it does, and that is the point that where this might, I don't want to seem like, you know, I'm just 100% for this. There's as many positives.
And I don't want to seem like I'm not. I mean, I use AI every day.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying.
Me too.
I'm just saying, you know, looking at past statistics is important. And the past statistics would say that society doesn't know what the fuck it's doing when it comes to
when you have reactive
technology.
minds running the show.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So in saying that, which way should it go? Like, there is no other way it's going to go. Like, I actually feel as daunting and as scary
already.
Yeah.
Yeah, as daunting and as scary as I feel, like with my own reservations around it, it can't possibly go any other way, I don't think.
Yeah. No, it can't.
Because
not with the
from
way
where we came from to where we're going to, like, this is a stepping stone, which will be another stepping stone, which will be a stepping stone, which will be a stepping stone, which will be a stepping stone, well, it's just constantly going to evolve into something new. It's not going to stop, and that's just part of our nature, isn't it? You know, yes, it may crumble at one hit and we have to start again, but that second time will be different to the previous time. It may have similar structure, but we're always Yeah, that's right. You know, it's kind of like the whole lotus flower that just keeps opening upon itself. That's exactly what we're doing. We're
Mm-hmm.
just opening on ourselves. Like, on one hand, yes, we're increasing a lot of risk, but our potential is like pretty impressive,
Mm-hmm.
like really impressive.
Well, my thing is, okay, so obviously it would be an asinine comment to say that we are not, as a species, progressing, because in one way, we are progressing. We are, um, you know, as a society, as a species, or whatever, we're evolving into higher states. But on the flip side, on the other side of that, there is also this darker side, which is that we're becoming greedier and hungrier and more obsessed, and more desperate.
Yep,
And we're trying to
yep,
cling on to things that have no meaning, that we think are going to make us happier because they're making our lives easier. So we'll have more time for this. No, buddy. There's
yep.
always going to be more problems to solve, more problems to solve. And until we get out of that mentality and realize that we are not just of the physical universe, but we are spiritual beings, and think and operate in terms of that spiritual beingness, we're just going to stay stuck in this trap. That's how I feel.
I don't
And I
disagree.
agree with that as well.
I don't
Yeah,
disagree at all. And
this is an interesting one.
yeah, it is. I wish we had more time.
Yeah, yeah.
Lisa and I are both looking at the clock because
We
okay,
could
got 10
do it.
minutes.
We
Arthur's
could
got to
do a
go to
part
pickleball.
two. We
Oh
can
God.
we
Oh
could
God.
definitely do a part two.
Yeah, we can do
We
a
could
Yeah.
part
definitely do
two.
a part two. Yeah,
The point is that in a perfect world scenario, or somewhat perfect world scenario, you make things easier for people, and then they do positive things with their time.
Yeah.
And if and granted, do I think that the powers that be are going to allow these large language models, and if they get to AGI, which is quote unquote sentience, are they going to allow them to figure out the solutions to not needing oil anymore? And what happens there? How many people have died with free energy machines, which we could do a whole series of podcasts on from a
yes, yes.
Scientological standpoint, and have died and their families, da, 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 all that. I mean, it's really creepy. But the thing is you raise the bar. I mean, just let's just use smartphones. Has the world gotten any better with smartphones?
Define better. This is
Well,
the thing.
right. It's a moving target. What's
Yeah.
better?
You know,
What's better music if
is
you have the tools to make it?
is sitting is
It has
sitting
its pros and cons.
sitting in
Yep.
a
It
restaurant
definitely
with
has
all
its
these
pros and cons.
people
Hmm.
Yeah.
on their phones, not being, not speaking to each other, not acting
Yeah, I don't
phones.
see I don't see it as good at all
Yeah.
because the
Well,
people are so out of
when I get
touch.
my robot, when I get my robot, it will be putting the food in my mouth.
Right. 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 Well, there's a guy on TikTok that taught his, what was it, his rat to, was it his rat? No, it was his parrot. He
Yeah.
taught his parrot to grab his chips out of the bag that were sitting on his lap and take it up to his mouth.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to
Yeah,
happen.
Yeah.
I mean, that sort of thing is going to happen. But here's another thing. If you're, and it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of it can happen, and it will be made into a facility with your robot. You don't need your cell phone anymore. Your robot's
yeah,
with you. They're your companion. You just got a message, or you could just say, "Reply to my messages for me." You have all the answers. Reply to my email messages for me. They're around you all the time. They're like having your own communicator.
mm,
LRH had communicators that handled things for him. So you could say, Lisa, so and so got a hold of you about doing a design, and they want to. What do you call them again? A
Custom.
custom. They have a custom they want to do, and before you even have a chance to answer, the robot has supplied you with 6 images as suggestions for you to human to humanize. Which one of these images do you want to use? And I'll send it over to your iPad so you can use it as a basis for what you're going to create.
Right.
That's not something that's in the future. That's something we can do right now. So you don't need a cell phone
yeah.
anymore.
That would be very Very interesting.
And then we see people going out to dinner with their robot. The robot just sits there and you're conversing with your robot. I know we're running out of time.
Yeah.
You're conversing with your robot at the
Yep.
restaurant, taking your incoming calls, your
Yep.
messages and everything. And Tesla's robots, they'll display the message right on their face so you can see it.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the others out there do the same thing. Not all of them. But anyway.
It's really, really cool.
Yeah. So which side of this do you want to be on and what can it do for you? And reactive minds will do lots of nasty things with them, but they still do the same thing with cell phones. They still did the same thing with
Yep.
TV.
Yep.
They did the same thing. Well, look at print media, newspapers, you know, the merchants of chaos and all that stuff. We're still here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're still
You can
here.
still buy a newspaper.
You can still buy a newspaper and it can be useful and it can make you money and it gives you opportunities, even though it's full of propaganda.
Yeah.
So, you know, C3PO.
What was it? If you listen to the news, you're misinformed. If you don't listen to the news, you're uninformed.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So ultimately, in the end, get on the side. I think we might do a part 2 on this because there's a lot of directions.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's
Yeah.
do a part
Yeah,
2
it's starting to get hot now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll end it here and we'll do a part 2 for our next podcast. But in the meantime, if you have any questions, you don't know anything about this stuff and you want to know where to go and how to get started, send us a message on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, or post on Facebook underneath this podcast. Get in touch with us. Send us a direct message on Facebook Messenger. Get on the College of Independent Scientology.com, register and download our apps. And you can talk to an AI in the app on the college and on the website. And you can get any question you have about Scientology and Dianetics answered accurately. And sometimes with citations, or you can go for a deep dive on our Oracle and you can ask all kinds of questions and even get checked out on the materials that you just read and download anything you want.
Really
College
cool.
of Independent Scientology.com and ao-gp.org. Anything in closing before we end part 1 here?
I just want to apologize for earlier on. I am on day 7. So if you don't edit that out for listeners, I'm on day 7 of no nicotine. So my patience is very, very, very short.
Bodies. We'll see y'all in the next podcast.
Yeah.
My fault. I decided to start vaping to solve a problem, actually.
Were you being there and communicating?
Yes. Yes, I was.
Namaste, and we love you.
You didn't ask Arthur if he had.
Oh,
anything
Arthur,
to
do you
say.
have anything?
How rude.
No, that's all right. No, I reckon we should do a part 2. That's
Yeah.
Okay.
my
No,
closing
for sure.
statement. Yeah.
We'll do a part 2. So namaste,
All right.
and we love you. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.